Last week, we talked about chores because they are so important to the children's independence and self-esteem, and also your relationship with your children. After all, you run the house, and the child should learn he is needed and appreciated when he helps with that. Chores offer a way for a youngster to increase his autonomy, his skill set, and perform admirably for credit. In essence, chores are empowering. And that's the topic of our entire show today. When I was about 6 years old, a friend of mine's family owned a VW bus. This was a small van-type vehicle that had its engine at the back, behind a vertical opening. On their way to Brownies one afternoon, the bus conked out. Her mother pulled over to the side of the road. They both got out and walked around to the back. Her mother opened up the engine compartment, and they looked in. Neither knew what they were even looking for, or maybe what they were looking at. My 6-year-old friend examined the engine, and at some point, she was looking at sort of the different connections. And then she saw there was one thing that seemed out of place. She pointed at it and said, "Mommy, that thing looks like it should go here." It was a long rod, and it just looked like it had hopped out of its holder somehow. So her mother lifted it back onto the holder thing and tried starting the van. Eureka! It started. She credited her daughter with having fixed the car. Now, I have no idea if the car would have started anyway, but the way I heard the story, that mother was darn proud of her daughter for fixing the car. Imagine that little girl's self-esteem when her contribution was first heard and then acknowledged and then even lauded. Think on how that affected how she approached new problems that came later, like a victor and a conqueror and a boss. You can do that for your children. It's not even hard, and it's actually your job. So this show is about education. What is education if not empowerment? Foster in your children a can-do attitude. In fact, although I've covered it on this show already, it bears repeating that what children glean in school is really the opposite of what we hope they absorb. Because while they may learn to perform on tests and regurgitate what the teachers tell them, they are also hearing another strong lesson, that they don't know any other stuff. And if they don't get an A on that test, they don't even know that. So really, what school teaches is just how incapable the student is, because all the knowledge is there in the institution. And if they don't get it there, well, they simply don't get it. Get it? What I'm suggesting is that you actively search for opportunities to reaffirm and empower your students. Remark on their accomplishments, their hard work, and how well they are doing, and share your hopes for their future endeavors. Studies have shown that children who are encouraged with remarks on their determination and struggles are more likely to try new or more challenging things than students who are simply acknowledged as smart or capable. There's a strong distinction between you did well because you're clever and I admire all the effort you put in because you're such a hard worker. Empowering your offspring is fun. My children had to write essays even when they were young. There is a standard essay format: introduction, thesis, statement, 3 proofs with examples, and then the conclusion. Of course, as they grow, the format expands and they add embellishments, the exordium, the amplification, etc. But initially, we teach the simple standard format. As my son approached his essays with his typical annoyance and dread, I tried encouraging him by saying, writing was painting with words. He liked putting a paintbrush to paper. I figured this would impress on him the creativity involved in writing. His blank look indicated otherwise. In any case, when he was around 9 years old, the weekly writing assignments always involved a choice of topics, and this one week's topic was why he liked or didn't like a certain food. For some reason, he dove right in. So this was his essay. What's wrong with spinach? I have discovered that I dislike spinach for several reasons. Although many people enjoy eating spinach because it is considered nutritious and beneficial, for me, spinach is the most disgusting vegetable. Spinach's worst offenses are its bad taste, horrible smell, and squishy texture. One of the reasons I hate to eat spinach is because of its repulsive taste. When I was 6, I tried it for the first time, and it took 4 applications of mouthwash to get the taste out of my mouth. Another reason I don't care for spinach is because it smells like a stinky swamp. When my mother made creamed spinach, I almost threw up in my soup. The final reason I abhor this nasty vegetable is because of its gritty texture. When my mom made me try spinach, it stuck to my teeth like tin foil, making me very uncomfortable. Spinach has to be the worst vegetable known to mankind. It certainly is for me. There are many foods I like to eat, but spinach is not one of them. That was his essay. Now, when my kids were young, I often aided them in working out what to write and choosing their words. But in this instance, the intensity of the words are all his. I happen to strongly disagree with the sentiments expressed, but the paper certainly stands on its own regarding passion and color. Paint me a proud parent. Of course, I told him how proud I was of his diligent effort, which then empowered him. As he grew and matured, my son would often try to argue for what he wanted. Of course, children want things, and argumentation is the best approach. That's why it's imperative that we teach our children debate, the art of argumentation. Some people call it diplomacy. And it's the only thing standing between us and war. But back to the kids. I taught my children to debate. I remember distinctly the first argument my son won because I never allowed my children any unwarranted wins because I would rigorously test their arguments for soundness and validity. Kids are clever, but they lack knowledge. And as they gain knowledge, they need instruction on what to do with it. Debate gives them that. So we teach our children to argue effectively, despite our own reluctance. Another great reason we teach them debate is because they need it. Last year, our family moved to a new town, so I launched 2 speech and debate clubs with 12-year-olds and higher. On the first day we met, I asked them why they came to the club, what they were looking for. At each club, a 12-year-old's hand shot in the air, and both of them said, and I quote, "I just want to argue." Young people are wrestling with the big questions, the fundamental questions of life, and we must give them the tools to attack and conquer those queries. And debate is an excellent approach because it teaches them to evaluate both sides of an argument, and that's empowering. So, my son used to debate me on various topics. He never won. Until one day, he had decided he wanted a dog. I gave him all the reasons why he couldn't have a dog, but he had an answer for every one of them. And I don't mean just an answer, but a well thought out, reasoned response for each of my objections, down to him having saved enough money to buy the dog entirely himself. And that was the first time that he won, fair and square, as they say. And then there was an entirely different drama with him finding the dog, where he was almost swindled. He got so upset that I was standing in the way of his bliss with my purely logical questions of him sending his money to a guy who I could clearly see was disreputable. I finally explained to him that, I'll back off. I said, listen, Braden, my job is to protect you, and I can tell that this puppy you think you are purchasing is not real. It's a con. But I've done my job. I've warned you as best I can, and it's your money, not mine. So the choice now is yours.